Welcome to Blind Spots, a podcast where we're helping you fill the gap between what you want to do with your money and what you actually do. We are professional investors, writers, and financial planners helping you navigate the complexities of finance to optimize what you can control and cut out the rest. Join your host, Nick Shermans and Aaron Varghese, as we discuss the questions and nuances surrounding everyday money management. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Blind Spots. In today's episode, we are talking about preparing for retirement, more specifically, balancing life beyond your working years. So Nick sent over a quote from Twitter, as he usually does, and this is what inspired today's episode. So it says, the more your life revolves around work, the more of a shock retirement will be. It's like having a portfolio that's not diversified, and it's not until your job is gone that you confront reality. It can be like falling into space. Why did that stick out to you so much?
Well, so many retirees get sucked into, will I have enough money, the portfolio side, the financial side, and I think that's a big chunk of retirement, a huge input to give you peace of mind and give you freedom to enjoy the things that you want to do. But there's this other side, a whole boatload of stuff that people don't really think about until they fully retire. There's a feeling that this is amplified if your work is tied up in your identity. And so many of us spend a lot of time at work. We spend a lot of time with our colleagues. It's embedded in our daily habits and routines. You take that away and suddenly you can feel lost. So we're going to counter with a few things, and we've done our research, we've gone online through our own experience as well, identifying some of the softer things that could make all the difference from living a prosperous, full retirement versus getting stuck in the dungeon of despair. And we'll show you we'll talk about what that looks like too.
I think we should start by invert the problem. Like you said, we talked to a lot of people who ask the question of how much do I need for retirement? How much should I be saving? Yada, yada. And of course, it depends on what you want to do and how you want to live your life, because where you live, your activities, your hobbies, what you want to accomplish in retirement dictates how much you will be spending in retirement, which then trickles into kind of the answer to the question. So let's start by inverting it.
So this is what I've seen from people who are miserable, and they might not think they're miserable, but those that maybe aren't living a full retirement, right? So this really stemmed from someone told me, if President X gets elected, I am going to hunker down the next 4 years, meaning I'm not going to go out, I'm not going to spend money, I'm just going to literally hunker down and not do anything. Which, I was taken aback by that, just because this person, right, the average male lives till, 81 or something, like 80, and yeah, he was about that age. And, I'm looking at my own life thinking, would I ever let an external factor that I can't control dictate how I live my life in my latter years? And the answer is a resounding no. And I feel like when people get sucked into an isolation lifestyle and they're letting external factors like the market or politics or news or media or whatever infiltrate their life and consume their life, it can be a very depressing and slippery slope. And most people don't set out to go down that rabbit hole, but it often can happen. And one of the biggest problems in retirement that we've seen is a lack of social fitness, meaning you are lonely, you're by yourself. Even if you're still married, it's easy to fall in that trap when you don't have a forced social fitness calendar. Like, you're not going into work and talking to your colleagues, right? It takes intention. There's friction to going out and engaging with your friends and community and social circle. So that's the dark side. Sitting in front of your computer and clicking buttons and worrying about all of the things that I mentioned. Politics, which is a popular one. Like, my grandparents were notorious for watching the news and just staying in front of that and talking about politics. Now, if that's what you enjoy doing, that's great. But for most people, I don't think they, again, intentionally set out to do that. So what we're trying to do is just create a little more intention to live a well-rounded retirement based on what we've seen in the research that we've done.
So let's talk about some of the things that people can either prepare for while they're still working before they retire, or even if you are retired, these are some things that you could be doing to live, saying a full retirement life. I like fulfilling also.
Fulfilling, yeah.
So here's just a few ideas that we thought we'd throw out here. And I think that some of these are kind of unique, but of course, interests, hobbies, people talk about relationships, but I think it goes deeper than that, because it's nice to say, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? So here's just some ideas. One, I love this idea of embracing lifelong learning. I heard this, it was just like a research paper that I read a while back, but it was about the perception of time based on your daily activities or things that you do kind of throughout the year. And that when you're younger, time feels like it goes by much slower. And that's because you are constantly learning new things and you have new experiences. The older we get, the less we tend to do those things. So we just kind of get stuck in the mundane day-to-day life. It's kind of like Groundhog's Day. You wake up, you go to work, you come home, you make dinner, you go to sleep and do it all over again. And being younger, thinking about living life like that kind of scares me, and I don't like the idea of that. So one of my goals throughout life is just to constantly have new experiences. But I think that at some point, a lot of people drop that idea of continuing to learn and continuing to have new experiences. So being intentional about doing that, whether it's just trying something you've never thought to try before or going a place you've never thought about going before, can help kind of slow down the perception of time. And I think new experiences are great for everyone, no matter what it is.
I'm glad you brought this up. I was just talking to my middle daughter about this, and she asked, I forget what question she asked me, but she was basically asking the difference between kids and adults, which is my middle daughter's thinks different levels than most kids.
Yeah.
And so I looked at her and I'm like, Remy, that's an outstanding question. To me, the beautiful part about kids, and there's many, but this is probably the biggest in my opinion. They are where their feet are. They're not thinking about the future. They're not thinking about the past. They are immersed in the present. It could be putting together a Lego set. It could be reading a book. It could be playing with their friends. Nothing else in the world exists. They don't have a care in the world. They're not thinking about yesterday. They're not thinking about tomorrow. They are fully where their feet are. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And adults on the opposite end are thinking about mistakes they made in the past, and those mistakes are still beating them today. They're thinking about the future. Just wait till I do this, then I'm going to do that. It's a constant avoidance of the present. And to your point, I think life is much more full. Time moves slower when we're fully present and engaging with those around us, the environment around us, getting outside and just being where our feet are. That's one of my main goals, as I've grown older and I'm 42 now, is just to slow down. Like if it's not going to matter in 5 years, I'm not going to spend 5 minutes thinking about it.
That's a good rule of thumb to have, because people just spend so much time complaining about things, gossiping about things that have no substance.
So to put a bow on a lot of words there, be present and stay curious, right?
All right. The next one we had, of course, is volunteering. I think this is big on the list of things to do in retirement, but just being involved in your community, giving back, anything that aligns with your interests, your values. I think you'll meet people that also share some of the same interests and values by doing that. So I think volunteering is a nice one to add to the list.
Yeah, and if I could chime in, and I agree with that. I think being selfless and turning the mirror away from yourself is a beautiful thing. Sometimes it helps to get perspective. But I think this list is good for everybody, not just folks that are retired. There's a lot of good stuff in here that can add fullness and richness to one's life.
All right, next one is mentorship and coaching, which this is one I don't normally see on the list of things to do in retirement. But just because you have ended your career, you've built all of this knowledge over the years, doesn't mean that it has to disappear with you, right? So getting into some kind of mentorship program, coaching, this could also be in a volunteer type of position, I think is a great idea to just kind of continue to pass that knowledge on to the people who are coming up behind you.
Yeah, and it could be as simple as grandparents getting to know their grandkids, right? Like part of the reason why I live here is because my wife's parents and my parents live here. And I think it's important for the younger generation to know the older generation, sharing experiences and life lessons and just a different perspective. I think that's really important for growth on both sides. And then on the coaching side, I do coach my kids' sports teams, and it's not uncommon to see grandpa or grandma coaching youth soccer or youth basketball. And I think that's really cool.
What is it like having grandparents coach a bunch of kids?
It's probably much more firm. So one of my golf buddies who's 6'4" coaches his grandson's 10-year-old baseball team. And I would imagine his bandwidth for BS and not paying attention is pretty short. So I think it's more of a firm hand, an old school hand, which is good for kids, right? I'm not going to sit here and say kids are soft nowadays. I think every generation does that. Well, back in my day, I walked to the library in 15 miles of snow. I'm not going to do that. But certainly I do have an appreciation for the old school dad, old school grandparent that doesn't take any nonsense.
Love it. That sounds like a good dynamic. Okay. I think I would be remiss if I didn't add this to the list, but just traveling. I think it's great to see different parts of the world, experience new cultures, experience just the way that things happen outside of your bubble that you're used to being in. So I think travel is a great way to experience that.
Tell us about your recent trip and just disregard the man in the bushes behind me.
I think he's dusting the window outside. Sorry, what did you ask?
Tell us about your recent trip and why you've been MIA from the podcast.
Okay, I've been MIA from the podcast because I was on the other side of the world. I went to Japan with my husband for a couple of weeks. A lot of people kind of have the deer in headlights look when I said that we were going to Japan, and then followed up with the question, why? And it was simply because it was on our bucket list. It's a place we wanted to see. And just obviously beautiful pictures, videos we've seen, on the internet, but just wanting to experience the culture, kind of like I just said, the way that people do things just in a different place. A little bit of a culture shock when we got there, but we acclimated quickly like we normally do. But yeah, we just wanted to try different food, see a different part of the world, and just kind of be around other people.
What was your biggest surprise during your trip?
My biggest surprise was the lack of English speaking throughout the country, even in highly populated and touristy areas. But that made travel a little bit more difficult. Thankfully, we're blessed with technology, and there's translation apps, and even if a menu is fully in a language that you can't speak, you can take a picture of it, and in an instant it comes up in English, which was amazing. So that certainly helps, but that was a big surprise. I've told people it's the most organized chaos I've ever experienced in my life. Just thousands of people in train stations, but everyone is quiet, respectful. It's just a completely different feeling than being in America.
Okay, what's next on the list?
Next on the list, let's go to starting a passion project. I think people forget about the things that they enjoy and are passionate about when you're just kind of in the day-to-day life, the kind of 9-to-5 life, doing something for someone else usually. So just kind of, this said, channeling creativity and interest in a passion project allows you to express yourself and engage in something deeply meaningful. I think that's beautiful. So no matter big or small.
Right. And I think a lot of the popular retirement questions that we get about how much do I need? Do I have enough to live? Can be answered by identifying what you like. Like, what do you like to do? And I know that sounds stupid and simple, but it's true. So many people, back to our original point, get so consumed with their work, and they've been doing that for 30, 40 years. It's tough for them to identify what they actually like to do. And I think once you identify what your daily life could look like in retirement, you can back into your personal number, contrary to what the media or what people talk about. There is not a magical number to retire. It all depends on your activities. What's true for a Kansas person living out on a farm is different for someone in a Manhattan penthouse. So identifying what you like to do is a huge input as it relates to the financial piece.
Yeah, I had someone ask me a question recently. They said something along the lines of, do I have as much as most people, my age or in my position have? And I said, just simply, someone can have $1 million and be way more than okay, more than enough to live the rest of their lives without a care in the world or a worry. Someone could have $10 million and be on the edge of running out of money really quickly. Just depends on your lifestyle, what you do, where you live. So I think that helped kind of put it into perspective for them. Okay, I'll let you take the next one because I know you're very passionate about this. But we can talk about staying physically active in retirement.
Staying physically active. So I shared with Aaron a quote or anecdote that changed the way that I viewed my routine as far as working out goes. Someone said, many people treat working out like a chore, and they think about how working out is going to fit into your life. Okay. Flip that. Think about how your life fits into working out. So I prioritize my body, and it's not like I'm some specimen or anything, but It is baked. It is baked into my routine, and it was just a subtle mindset shift where working out or life is going to fit into my working out, and I'm gonna prioritize that, because if I don't have my
Yeah.
health, I really don't have anything. Like, what's the point of working and grinding and having kids if I'm not going to be around? So I think just moving that up the ladder of priority and changing your mindset can go a long way. And I also saw a quote where, a lot of people spend a lot of time on their house maintenance and cutting the grass and making it look pretty and, doing remodels and putting in a new deck. If people treated their bodies like that, many would feel a lot better. They would have more energy. They would live longer. But it's almost like in today's rat race, taking care of ourselves takes a backseat to everything else. Well, and the whole workout thing can seem daunting, but it really is about optimizing your environment, creating the right habits. Like, as soon as I get home, and this is small and stupid, but it works for me. I put on my workout clothes. It's the first thing I do. Like, I know if I sit on the couch with my work attire on, the chances of me working out go way, way down. So the first thing I do is I eat, I put on my workout clothes. I might not work out in the next 10 or 15 minutes, but I know it's coming because I've already made the effort to put on my workout clothes. So just little games like that, optimize your environment to make your good habits easier and your bad habits harder.
It's a good way to be. All right, last one on the list. Let's talk about embracing mindfulness and self-care.
I don't know what that means.
All right, well, I'll tell you. I think that this comes from us not being able to shut off our brains and we're just always constantly consuming things. And so to be able to just sit back and do nothing, like, there's people who can't not pick up their phone when there's downtime in something else. So I think it's just being mindful of things like that. Not always having to have the TV running, always having, the phone in front of your face, or it's just good to be able to shut it off.
I'm also glad you talked about this, because I think being bored is a skill. Being bored is an underrated skill. My best thinking comes when I'm letting my mind drift. Too often, we're not letting our mind drift, right? We're grabbing our phone, we're watching TV, we're scrolling the internet, we're on Twitter. It's okay to have downtime. Like I always think of it as like, a finely tuned athlete. I sprint. Being bored is part of my high performance program, right? It's okay to be bored. Like, society now, it makes it feels like we always need to be hustling and doing stuff. And if you're sitting in your sweatpants and you're staring at the bushes outside, then you're a piece of crap. That's not true at all. I think being bored in the digital age is a intentional skill that's not talked about enough.
Well, there's this, I don't know if it's new or not, but people saying, like, you need to get out and touch grass. I think that is truer than ever. I saw something the other day that said, I think, like, the average American is outside less than 12 minutes a day.
Oh,
But think about most people's days, right? Like, you get into your car that's parked in the garage, you leave, you walk inside of a building, you stay there for 8 hours, and you go home, you park back in your garage, and then, like, most people aren't going out and feeling the sun or the grass outside.
That's why I play golf. That's why I love golf right there. Because you're outside, you're not on your phone, you're talking with humans, you're looking them in the eye, you're competing, you're breathing, you're seeing wildlife, you're in beautiful places. I don't want to turn this into a golf podcast. So let's recap our softer side of retirement to live a more well-rounded retirement. And this is true for life too. So this is not just for retirees. Embrace lifelong learning, stay curious, volunteer and give back, travel, cultivate social connections. We didn't really talk about social fitness, but I think a lot of these things kind of loop in the social fitness aspect. Start a passion project, stay active, embrace mindfulness and self-care. It's okay to be bored.
I think those are great daily practices for everyone. Like you said, not just retirees. All right. So we will end. I was searching the subreddit of retirement, and someone posted, I'm retired. This is what I'm doing today. I would love to hear what other retirees just have going on. So I don't know where these people live. Let's assume they're in America, and this is just what people reported. So I've got 2 somewhat longer ones and just 2 short ones. So here's the first one. He said, I retired a year and a half ago. I plan to sell my house and downsize to a less urban area nearer to my family. So I'm taking time after I sold my home, but before I get into a new place. So I'm taking my RV around the country full time for a couple of years. And he just kind of goes on to say this morning, I find myself in an empty but free state forest campground in Southeast Ohio. I slept in until 8. I normally get up at 7, and I'm on my second cup of coffee as I read the news on my tablet. I have light jazz streaming on my speaker, and today is a do-nothing day. So he's just out traveling around the country and enjoying the simplicities of life and nature.
I got to be honest, that sounds pretty damn cool.
I thought that was a great idea.
I've always wanted to just go somewhere, hop in the car, just book a flight with a backpack, a few basic things, and just see where the wind blows me. Unfortunately, I have 3 kids and a wife and a job, so I can't do that. But kudos to this guy or
Fortunately, you
gal.
have those things too.
Yeah, well, yes, but I envy this man or woman, and I think they're doing it right.
Sure.
Please continue.
All right, here's the next one. This person said, I'm homeschooling 2 of my grandchildren. It takes up a good portion of my day. I thought that was kind of unique too. All right, next one. This person said that he's fly fishing with his neighbor and then working in the yard in the afternoon. There was a lot of yard work reported that takes up the day. Okay, last but not least, this person said, I reminded myself this morning that in many respects, this home is my quote unquote vacation home, and I am on vacation even if it's permanent vacation. I had to skip my art class today for a furniture delivery, but I'll go to my other art class tomorrow. I have tickets for a baseball game on Monday. I study French on Duolingo every day. I write, I read, and I make things every day. I've spent the last couple of years decluttering and getting my affairs in order. I could live another 20 years or I could die tomorrow. All the photos are arranged in the albums. I have given away everything I'm not thrilled with, and I have a daily routine. I have bathrooms on every floor. My grown kid lives with their spouse and my grandchildren 10 blocks away, and we hang out a couple of times a week. This is wonderful. It's exactly what I worked for all my life, and I'm happy it worked out the way it did.
That's actually super cool. I'm actually getting emotional with that because I think that's beautiful. I think all of that is beautiful. And I love the framing of this home is my vacation home. I am on vacation, even if it's a permanent vacation. That's a beautiful mental trick that just lifts your disposition. That's just a great way to look at retirement.
Yeah. You're on permanent vacation. So anyways, those are some stories from retirees around the country. That's what people are doing. I thought it would be great to ask people to share their own thoughts and experiences with retirement. If you want to just throw in a, here's what I'm doing today, you can send it to insight@pureportfolios.com. But we'll wrap it up here. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.